Hi, Jay here. Thanks for watching my video. So we're in The Sims 4 and doing have a speed build for you today. As you guess from the title, we're doing trying to make an abandoned house. Now, the point of doing this is I'm just trying to figure building the shell here and like trying to figure out an initial sort of style for the house. I think with these abandoned house builds, um, it's quite fun because see normally in The Sims we try to make our houses look as nice as we possibly can. Um, whereas the doing it this way with the abandoned houses, we're literally doing the opposite. It's quite fun to make them look like a complete wreck. Um, so that's kind of, but also it does kind of lead you into a bit of a storyline because the idea is you could say that your sim has maybe bought their first home, but to save money, they've taken on a bit of a renovation project, and so they've moved into this um, derelict building that you're then going to try and have them earn the money through gameplay to then renovate the house and make it look nice again. And that's kind of the idea behind these abandoned houses. So the head canon for this build is like so here in the UK we have a show called Air Hunters. I'm not sure if you've heard of it or you have similar things wherever you are. Essentially, it's people who have died with no clear relatives and they haven't left a will. So but their house, they have to figure out what to do with their house. The show centers on these people doing investigations in their family tree to find a laughing heir, so like someone who never knew the person but is gonna, because the law they're related to someone in a particular way, they get to pocket all the swag. Um, However, if it's not here, I think it's if not found for 30 years, the property goes to the government. The old property titles are completely dissolved and done away with. The government then creates a new title to sell the property to someone else, and they bag the money, and that just stops the vacant land from being held up any longer. Now the way we're doing it with this one, um, and that's kind of the head canon for this build. The lot is called Potter's Splay, and it's in Willow Creek. So I thought, well, for a storyline, maybe this house was built and was the family home for the Potter family, quite a few, for maybe a few generations. But sadly, the last member of the family died. Um, I guess I'm thinking maybe like coming up to that 30-year period where no heirs have come forward. So whoever's the government authority, if you like, in The Sims, which is never really very clearly explained, I don't think. But whoever that is has just they've done that. They've just destroyed the title, um, and the old title and issued a new property for your sim to then come in and buy. Unfortunately, because it's sat completely unoccupied, it's been also neglected for that time, which is why it's in a bit of a state. Let's just say it needs some help. But at this point in the build, and that's kind of where we're coming from. So at this point in the build, you can see I've done the shell and working on the roofing. I do quite like these sort of where you use real walls to make the dormers. Um, it makes this, I think, works for this very style of house, but it also adds a bit of something to your build. If you can see, it makes it look a bit better from the front. Um, but I do find them a bit fiddly, so I often have to play about with them to get it to work. Same with the roofing. The roofing on this took me a long time just because of how fiddly it was trying to make sure everything was properly lined up. And I think I got it as close as I possibly can. Um, you can sort of tell where it is. I think the roof trim hides some of the failings, but not all of them. At least from a noticeable glance, it's not glaring, I don't think. At least I hope so. So I'm just trying to figure out some windows. See, with this, I want it to look like the house was once a really nice home, but it's just been left to go to ruin. And that's why. So I picked things that maybe once looked nice, but the swatches are maybe like the paint's faded and things like that. Now, I was initially looking at this door from Seasons, but in the end, I decided to do this as a limited pack build. So I only use the content from Life and Death, Strangerville, and Vampires packs in addition to the base game. In fact, actually, the majority of it, what I put down, is actually base game. Some of the pack items, they just come with things to make the buildings look like they're older, that they're starting to break down, or they've just been, you know, trashed essentially by various people over the years. And that was kind of where we've come from. I mean, I wouldn't say to go. I mean, to be honest, I know that's 3 packs. I know it's like 60 quid's worth of in real like IRL money. So it's definitely not worth. I mean, to be fair, no Sims pack is worth full price. Like always wait for a sale or find it somewhere cheap if you can. But certainly wouldn't say to go out and buy those items just so that you can do this kind of build. Because firstly, it is actually possible to do it with just the base game, but you would be relying heavily on the debug cheats to have like the big overgrown plants and making it just look like, maybe there's been a lot of, not only has the garden been overgrown, but some of the plants have started to grow in through the windows and things like that. But this, what I'm putting on now, the holes in the roof, they come from the Life and Death pack. So it's this kind of detail, like the holes in the roof, the mold stains, the cracks. That's the kind of things that come with the packs. Whereas the rest of it is is pretty much base game. Um, Now I do makes a little bit of change to the back of the house and when it comes to actually putting the interior in, so that it still looks vaguely similar, but it's sort of stepped out by one tile. But in the final build. Now coming on to the swatches, so I started off with the chimneys, wanting to do a brick, but again maybe a slightly older looking brick. So I picked this one, the Brickery. It is a red brick, but it looks a bit more neutral. And then I put the white siding on. I think that base game siding in the white does just look a bit dirty. Similarly with these windows, I initially went for the green swatch, but I thought the white paint on those shutters again looks a bit like it's old paint that needs to be freshened up. So that's where we go with that. And now it's come to the finding an interior stairs, because putting the stairs down kind of helps you figure out the rest of the floor plan. Fortunately, this one, the floor plan came together quite easily, I think, because it is such a simple shape. It's a rectangle with a square at the back, which was great for me because that meant what I could do here is upstairs. One of these dormer rooms just becomes part of the hallway, and then you can see I partition upstairs off, so we get 2 bedrooms with each of the upstairs bedrooms having a small ensuite in the dormer space. In the end, this house is a 3 bedroom. Now it says a 4 bedroom on a 4 bathroom, sorry, on the gallery. It's more like 3.5 bathrooms because there's just a water closet downstairs, so it's that 3.5 bath rather than a full 4. Now it's just adding in things like the railings again, trying to make it look like this was once a house. So there's 2 white swatches on this base game door. One looks clean, and the other is this one where it's like the paint looks a bit more worn and a bit more dirty. So coming to I've already done the downstairs floor plan. So we've got living room, kitchen, master bedroom, and that water closet. I do move where the water closet is. I mean, I do think that the 3x1 box is realistic for where it's just a room where you've got a toilet and sink. But it just, once I came back to actually furnishing it, it made more sense for this build to move it. Just putting on the brick foundation, and then we're going to go inside and start with the furnishing once that's done. But I do need to put in a little window there. That's the thing that really puts me off it, how it's not symmetrical either side of the front door. But there we go. So we've got with spandrels and things like that on to go in with the columns. Now let's see. So I've got to start doing flooring, but I can't really see inside, so I need to put some lights in, which I'm going to find eventually. after I put in the master bath. So as you can see here, it's just putting that bathroom in, but that makes the master bedroom, which is why it gets stretched out by one tile, and I had to make some changes to the roof um, just to fit it. So that it is properly like got a double bedroom in it with both sides comfortably accessible. I mean, I know your Sims can actually walk on a quarter tile in the Sims 4, but it just looks a bit better, I think, in when you do it. Like deliberately, you've got a full tile either side for them. So it did mean going back to carrying on with the roof, which for some reason, even though I literally copy it, didn't quite line up with the existing roof. I mean, in hindsight, I possibly should have just brought the back deck out as well to make the roof a bit easier, but actually I thought it looked better if it wasn't fully even. I did say we were going to go inside. We will go inside eventually. I just need to finish the outside bits and putting this little extra detailing on. The chimneys that I've got there will function in real life because we've got those objects at the top. I just think it looks better when you build like walls and half walls around it, so it looks more like it fits as part of the building. Yeah, so out we go. Now we go inside and I put the lights in. I just use the saucer lights and I'm using the platform tool here to build up to make it look so that the chimneys are visible all the time in live mode, and that's just because I find that the little single box there, like you can see, just a bit annoying. But it's just this empty space, so it just adds that bit of then you can see where the chimney is. Yeah, onto the flooring. So I'm actually using this sort of looks like a kind of looks like it is under wood flooring, but I think it looks like a subfloor, like maybe it's been damaged, it's worn out, and then putting in again a more worn exterior looking wood on the decking. I'm painting the ceilings further above the decking, but not inside. I often don't paint the ceilings inside my builds because I just think in most houses, like the ceiling is plasterboard that's been painted white. So, but I think on these exterior porches and stuff, sometimes having the wood on the roof is a nice little detail. Yeah, so this point of the interior furnishings and decoration, I just wanted it to look old and worn out, and I thought that this kind of beige that I'm putting on looked a bit like a dirty kind of paint. Like again, it just needs freshening up. And yes, I am sort of, excuse me, shortening the rail so it looks like part of the stair rail's broken over time. Now, let's have a look and see what we can do with the kitchen. I did struggle with the kitchen because while it had the right colour for the paint, a lot of the tiles looked quite nice. So I just ended up using the same paint that we've got in the rest of the house. And that's when we come to the actual finishing. So I'm using the cheapest appliances in the nastiest looking swatches. So that again, it looks like the house is just like it needs some looking after, you know. And I put the oven there so it's you can sort of pretend that the extraction hood is using the chimney for the ventilation rather than just going out. So it makes a bit like as to where it's going. And then using the base game counters that look a bit in like a swatch that I thought looked a bit ugly. Um, I did struggle to find the matching upper cabinets for them, so in the end I just decided not to put upper cabinets in the kitchen because yeah, I just wasn't vibing with it looking that way. So I move on and put a dining table in the kitchen because there's no formal dining room in this house, so it's just there's a table in the kitchen with some old chairs that look like they've seen better days, and one of them's just been chucked in the corner there. So the two that are actually attached to the table will work in gameplay, and the third one isn't. Now, my thinking is for the damage inside is that all of those holes in the roof, um, they came and they let water damage into the building. And not only has that causing cracks and mold and things, but it's also allowed various plants like those thorns to start growing inside the building because they've been able to, nature will find a way. Um, and it's going to just sort of, it's managed to like root itself in like the dampness of like the boards and stuff in the ceiling. Now, initially, I do like that kitchen sink, but all of the swatches looked a bit too clean. So I thought that sink in the yellow, because I realised I'd forgotten to put a sink in the kitchen. I thought it looked a bit more like one of those sinks where it was white, but it was like a cheap plastic and it's gone yellow. So just do an initial furnish of the downstairs toilet. Again, this looks alright, so I just put in some mold swatches. As you can see, I put some mold and some cobwebs in the kitchen as well, in addition to the cracks on the wall. Um, just while I'm coming on to finish, we'll have a bit of a chat in general. So, if you follow my channel, you might know that I'm kind of new to YouTube. Obviously, I mean, my profile's been around for a while because I've watched YouTube for years, but I'm relatively new to making content. It's only been maybe like, at least at the time of posting this, maybe like 2.5 months. And if you followed my videos, I mean, I'm using an older computer and I've had some technical problems, which I've mentioned in earlier videos. Um, but I also work full time. So one of the things I've found is not only trying to figure out how to edit, but also um, actually like getting the balance with everything. So I'm aiming for at least 2 videos a week going forward. Maybe with some weeks there being a bonus like third video coming out like sort of as and when, but at least 2 per week. We'll be sticking with The Sims 4. I've also got a Sims medieval series that I just started on the channel. So that's going to be like kind of the main games, but I will be peppering in some other things here and there as we go, possibly playing some of the other Sims games here and there too. Now, as you can see, I'm moving on. We've moved on to the master bedroom, and I'm trying to put some cracks like in the glass of the windows to make it look like they're broken too, and then putting some chipping things in the paint where you can see it's been ripped back to the brick. Some mold patches, so it looks like there's been water damage there that's run down the wall, and things like that. So just trying to put some more cobwebs in. What I do like about these cobwebs though, is that in live mode they're actually animated so that they've got like little spiders crawling on the cobwebs, which just is the kind of detail we really should expect, but we often don't get in The Sims 4, unfortunately. Now, so it's at this point where I realized that I um, needed to move the downstairs toilet just because the floor plan made more sense if it was at the bottom of the stairs there. So yes, it goes from a 3x1 to a 2x2, and I'm just sort of moving all of the stuff over from the last place into the new. And then what I do is I just sort of get rid of that 3x1 tile to make the hallway a nicer shape for building. See, so there we go. We've got our nice little square all the way, and just making sure that the wallpaper matches up. Putting in some damage going up the stairs too. I just thought it makes it look a bit more realistic. Putting some chips and stuff underneath the windows so that it looks like maybe the windows leaking water now as well. See, those holes don't size up very well, so I've just put another hole there in the floor with another mold blob. For lack of a better word, it's a blob. Putting some again more of those things on the walls. Now, putting a little fireplace in the living room because I thought the living room, I think it's nice in The Sims. It kind of anchors a Sims living room to have a fireplace. Initially putting like a more retro looking TV on the fireplace, but I do eventually move that. Now, yes, I am putting smoke alarms and a burglar alarm in this house. They did exist like 30 years ago, but so it makes sense for them to be there, and obviously they will work in The Sims, but in real life, after not having been maintained for so long, they probably wouldn't still be working in real life, but that doesn't mean they wouldn't, be there in the house, Now, one of the things I struggled with the living room was finding a sofa that looked old and worn. So I thought that looked like a more old-fashioned style of sofa, but then it was trying to find the right color swatch where it looked a bit faded. Then it was I was quite happy with that, but then I think the armchair that's supposed to go with it, I don't think it had the same color swatches. It's like the orangey one just didn't look as worn in the sofa. It looked a bit more vibrant, and also they were quite expensive. So instead, I went for the cheap, more boxy looking but cheaper base game sofas, and then tried to find, I think, the peachy coloured swatch. I thought it looked dirty with how they've textured the fabric. To me, it looked a bit dirty. Um, I mean, obviously there are like sofas. I think they come with the Basement Treasures kit, um, where they are actually like a properly like old, worn-out sofa. But it's not worth buying the kit just for that reason. Um, that's why I wasn't going for that. And well, like I said, I wanted to keep this limited pack build, so I just used a base game one and made the best of it. I thought it made more sense to put that kind of TV on its own little table. And then it's a case of the living room did end up looking kind of like it could have been nice at one point, but yeah, I needed again the damage looks pretty structural, so we'll just have a nice sized up base game picture above the fire. Because the whole point of this build is to make it, you're supposed to be able to see that yes, it's a wreck, but also still see what it used to be, and that where the house has potential to be made nice once again. Um, it is up on the gallery, so if you want to have a go at renovating it and re-uploading it, I would love to see what you end up doing um, with it. That would be cool. Obviously, this is kind of fiddly, putting the cobwebs on that painting, because it was a case of using move objects and the alt key to like custom place it, because it like wants to snap to the wall. So I thought that kind of got there with it. For some reason, my mold splodge moved, so I put it back. Again, just adding a lot more detail to the build. I don't often do speed builds like this. Normally, when I do a speed build, if you've been following my channel, it's there's no commentary and it's just set to ambient music. Um, Let me know in the comments if you are liking the commentary speed build. Because if you are, we can maybe do a mix of them, or we can go with whatever your prefer. Maybe you just like the relax. Because sometimes it's nice to be able to talk, but like it's also nice to not talk sometimes. Yeah, so I'm using these thorns to make it look like more plants. That's kind of been a theme throughout this build, actually, to use landscaping to make it look like the plants are growing up through the holes and the damage to the actual building itself. So we've got these grasses and things. Now those thorns that I've used, they come from vampires, but the grasses that I've got here, they are base game. So if you don't have these packs, and you download it, you won't have the holes in the roof, but you would have the plants. Now coming forward, when I've put a pool in, as you can see, but I've made the water look a bit dirty because it's like it's just been sat and the pool's been left full all this time, or it's been filled up with rainwater and not drained, so it's really dirty and it probably smells. And then I've added some detailing so it looks like things have started to live in the water. Those little square things there, VFX, so in build mode, they look a bit silly, but if you go into live mode, you would see things like fish and tadpoles swimming around in the water. And then I'm using the terrain tools here to make it look like they've had initially like pebbles, but the pebbles over the years have, some of them have gone away. There's been dirt that have been kicked in because, there's a lot of maintenance to a pebble path. And then I follow that through with the pebble at the front. Again, so they've got the pebbled walkway from the street. And again, using the square brush tool to put it in, and then the softer round brush to make it look a bit more worn away. So I did remember to put an outdoor bin in, because that's something I often forget. The kids' room, I'm thinking maybe, this room hadn't been used for a long time, when before the house became empty. So that's kind of where we're going, and it's, maybe they had more things, but maybe the other toys and stuff, like the smaller things that were left lying around, just got taken by people who came in. And obviously this is the stuff that was too big for them to sneak out under their jacket pockets. So then it's just adding things to make it look like it's had a bit more structural damage. It's got some mold leaking in there because of the window leaking. Again, the shower's gone a bit leaky as well over the years, and that started to get moldy. And then we've got more damage on the walls and the mold blotches. Just trying to really drive this home. As you can see, we've got ceiling everywhere with it trying to looking as good as it can. Now onto this landing space. Now, landings in The Sims can be a bit of a waste of space. So what I found quite a good idea, I've been doing this since The Sims 1 came out, is putting like skill building and like study equipment in. So it's like, instead of having a designated study room, just making the libraries like, well, they've found a little nook where they can work. I mean, so I use for the cheap base game computer, because it's that's like how computers looked in the 90s. Like the first computer I ever had looked like that. But see, while it will work in The Sims, it probably wouldn't work in real life, and it's never been stolen because, well, it's that old, no one wants a computer like that anymore. Although, not gonna lie, if I was to ever like build my own custom PC, I would want modern specs, but in that kind of old boxy housing, because to me that's what computers should look like. I'm not so keen on this sleek slim look. I want the big box, the big white, like off-white plastic monstrosity. I don't look. I haven't. I'm really on board with this whole Y2K nostalgia. Okay, it was a simpler time, a much simpler time. But yeah, that's kind of. But obviously, I'm not really that good with tech, so I couldn't actually figure out how to build my own PC from scratch. But if I could, I would use like a retro PC's housing for like modern computer specs. The only thing I'd miss is maybe the touch screen, because my laptop that I use at the minute has a touch screen. But yeah, other than that, yeah, kind of cool. Instead of going for the damage, I thought I'd put some of those climbing thorns, because it is obviously above the kitchen where I had thorns, and then I carry that up outside along the chimney there as well. Just again to make it look like it's rooted itself in, and it's actually just grown through both sides of that same wall. I'm just putting on the debug cheats, because this is where we go in to the things where so this is like the objects where, like, if your Sims get a drink out of the fridge or a plate of something, they find it there. And then I've put in like I used for that EA used to build the environment. So as you can see, I've put a broken down fence at the front, as well as a few trees and some landscaping to make the house look really overgrown. I also added like details like a little remote control to go in the living room, and some of these overgrown bushes, just to make it look like the property has been just let go. Actually, it would be quite sad in real life, I think, 'cause it is something that, when you see an old house, that you can see its potential, but it's just not. It needs some love. I don't know if that's just me, but yes, it makes me sad when I see a house that could be really nice if someone just paid it the attention it needs. Um, Carrying through with the landscaping, this is what I was saying. If you wanted to do like a base game version of an abandoned house, you wouldn't be able to have the stains or the holes in the floor, but you could use the debug landscaping like this to make it look like weeds and grass and other plants have started to grow up through the floor. Um, so you can do a bit more as well if you're a PC player and you have the tool mod. I don't have the tool mod, but you can use that to position things in ways that they aren't naturally positioned, which can also help add to the effect. So just thought I'd put a little can of pop again, thinking that maybe it's been a bit of a teen hangout over the years, and they've just left their empty soda can on the arm of the sofa. 'Cause I tried to focus quite a lot on this living room because I thought of all of the rooms, it looked still the one that was most put together. So I thought adding these extra little bits would really help. And at this point, the build's mostly finished. It's just me trying to find those extra little details to add in just to make this house look like an absolute wreck. Up on the gallery, I've used the packs that I said, the Life and Death, Strangerville, and Vampires, and then we can see the description up there on the gallery for us. Now, what we can do is start going through a bit of a tour to this build. So we'll start with going back round to the front. See, I'm just in single speed now to show you around. Um, so we're coming up the front path. As you can see, it's a bit worn. You'd be a bit scared, uh, especially if it was your job to fix this, or at least I would be. See, we've got the trees and everything at the front with all the grasses overgrown and some piles of rubbish in the corner. So we come through the front door from the front deck into the hallway. See that you've got the downstairs toilet to the side. The hallway's all overgrown and mouldy with vines and plants growing everywhere. Then the kitchen again covered in rubbish, mold, weeds, um, cobwebs. Similar for the bedroom, kind of with the master bedroom at the back. Again, it's very minimal. Again, thinking some items of furniture may well have been stolen over the years, but not all of it. And then we'll see with the living room here, where I put a lot of the cracks on the walls and actually some of them through the window, just to see how that works. Then if we go outside, I think, onto the back deck, you can see it's got more plants growing through. The moldy sort of old, thinking that's kind of like rainwater that's filled up, so like it really would stink in real life. And then things started to live on it a bit. Again, it's all overgrown and wild, and the path started to fade away. Now, if we come back in and go up the stairs, so we go up to the landing, and then where you can see we've got a sort of a study space, and then there's the teenage room with an ensuite bedroom, and the child room on the other side, again with their own room. And this is the house from the front. That's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, why not hit that like button and drop me a message down in the comment section below. I love it when you do that. And consider subscribing. It's completely free and it really helps me out. You can also follow me over on Instagram with the handle @jhavelock. Thanks for watching. Bye now.